Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. We have a very familiar piece here to review today from Orient USA. Before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit about Orient as a brand. Orient is, of course, a Japanese brand, and they're essentially kind of a lesser-known cousin to Seiko and Citizen. And we are looking at a dive watch. So in the dive watch category, some kind of key features and characteristics and that kind of universal design language that you're going to find in a diver is, you're going to want, feature-wise, you're going to want water resistance, a screw-down crown, something tough, legible, a dive time bezel, and then if you have a bracelet, of course, it's nice to have a diver's extension. But I mean, honestly, I feel like I would rather have no diver's extension than kind of a me too type of diver's extension. I think when companies want to do it right, that's great. But I think, and in this case, Orient did forego that option, and I really don't fault them for it. So a little bit about the model. This is the new for 2016 Mako USA II. So this is, of course, a US only model. It's only available through Orient USA. The retail price is $375, but you can get it for $262.50 by using the 30 off code direct from Orient USA. So let's zoom out a little bit and get this in hand. All right, let's take a closer look. As you can see here, pretty much everything remains the same. If you guys remember my original Mako USA video, as well as my updated Mako 2 and Ray 2 from Orient Japan, they had the updates essentially where they put in the new hacking and hand windable movement. This watch is pretty much a culmination of those watches, and this is the watch that everybody's really been waiting for, to be quite honest. The 41.5 millimeter diameter remains with the 13 millimeter height. And then, of course, all done in stainless steel. You have that nice flat sapphire crystal, the same as before. Although I feel like it actually sits a little bit nicer compared to the bezel. With the original Mako USA, I felt like there was a little bit more of a gap. I mean, I don't know if it's in my head, but I feel like the kind of space here between the sapphire and the highest point of the bezel insert, I think it just lines up a little bit better. It's still, set a little bit shallow on there, but, honestly, I really don't mind it as much now. So I don't know if maybe I've just become more accepting or if because the specs are slightly different. I do believe that the newer movement is slightly thicker, which has pushed up the dial slightly, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was the same sapphire, just sitting slightly higher. So, of course, we still have that unidirectional rotating dive bezel, has 120 clicks. Very nice, very precise, no back play. Really reminds me of, something like my Longines Hydro Conquest bezel or the bezel action on my Oris Aquis. So those are definitely much more expensive models, but just to say that this is definitely very well executed, especially straight out of the factory. Oh, and also to note, we do have that loomed pip there at 12 o'clock, and then with the matte finishing on the bezel insert, which I think really complements the watch very well. So we do have a signed screw-down crown, which is great. And if you might remember, if you watched my Mako 2 and Ray 2 videos with this new hacking and hand windable movement, they actually removed the day pusher that used to be over here. And I think kind of as a design choice, they actually did make the crown slightly smaller. And I think it's really just so it didn't stick out as much. I think when you had a little bit more balance and kind of the visual weight of that pusher there, it was fine having this crown slightly larger. I think now They made the crown just a little bit more proportionate, and I think it looks great, and it doesn't really hinder, you know, functionality too much. I think it's still a great sized crown for when you are hand winding that new in-house Orient caliber F6922 movement. So a little bit about that movement. It's very comparable to Seiko movement as far as, you know, it's going to have that slightly lower beat count. It's going to be a 3 hertz movement, so it's going to be 6 beats a second versus 8 beats that you'll kind of get from that basic 2824. One of the cool things though is that you know, Swatch Group in particular has come out with these Powermatic 80 movements, which do have a really long power reserve, but they have slowed down the beat. So because of that, you'll find that there are actually a lot of Swiss movements now that are ticking away at a very similar beat rate with that 6 beats versus the 8. So I mean, I think if anything, that actually kind of adds a little bit of a value proposition to, you know, these Japanese movements that have the 6 hertz beat, because now it's a little bit more common to see that, and it's not going to be as stark of a contrast or as huge of a selling point when you're comparing, you know, something that's Swiss made versus something that is Japanese. So the case back remains the same pretty much. It's solid with the etching. As you can see, I still have the little Orient sticker there. I'll probably be removing that soon. I don't really mind it, but you know, I feel like it's probably going to get nasty after a while, so why keep it on there? I probably just leave it on there for the review and then I'll pull it off. All right, as far as the, you know, the design aesthetics, it's pretty much the same as the you know, the original Mako USA. So if you kind of want more details on that, definitely check out, you know, check out my library. I'll try to put a link in the description for that original one, because I do a lot of kind of more in-depth comparative versus kind of the showing the evolution of the Orient Ray and Mako lines, and kind of how they you know, slowly evolved into what you have here, which is the fantastic looking Mako USA model, specifically the 2. So briefly, you know, it has that royal blue sunray dial, applied indices, a day and date complication at 3 o'clock with very nicely framed window there, as you can see. Really well done, going the extra mile there. And, you know, something that you don't always find. A lot of times you'll be able to kind of see the gap between those two. Between those two discs, so it's nice that the frame actually covers a little bit of that. And, you know, sorry, it's a little bit late, so you're gonna start seeing that date window starting to move over there, but you know, they had to wait till the kids were asleep to film this. So sorry about that. And then as you can see, the hands are the sword and spear hands, very reminiscent of the Orient Pro Saturation Diver, and we have the outstanding Nemoto Luminova, which is great lume, very, very comparable to Seiko's Lume, but from what I understand, a different compound, and it does actually glow in a slightly different hue, which you'll see. So as you can see on the dial, it does say it is water resistant to 200 meters, which is great, especially considering I think the deepest anyone's ever, you know, went diving without some crazy, you know, mini submarine or anything like that was 200 meters. So or probably a little bit past that. So realistically, 200 meters is definitely more than enough. Of course, it's always nice to have something overbuilt, you know, just kind of for that quality and tolerance kind of fit and finish level. But, you know, don't let 200 meters dissuade you, because it's definitely more than capable. All right, and getting into the bracelet and end links, we have 22 millimeter lugs, solid end links, which is great, drilled lugs, it's fantastic. You know, we still have these solid links, nicely stamped clasp here, as you can see. And one of the nice things is that the logo on these are actually, you can see, I don't know if you can see from underneath, but if you were to take this out, you can see behind it. This, the marking here actually isn't stamped, it's actually etched. The previous models, if you were to flip it around, you would actually see an indentation from where it was just stamped in. So definitely a nice little upgrade and a fine detail that a lot of people don't really notice when they're comparing the USA model to some of the previous Rays and Makos. And then, you know, of course, this is still stamped, but I think it's really finely executed and a little bit less of an eyesore than the basic folding unit that you'll find on very many Seikos and you know, kind of the older model Rolexes and some of the lower end clasps you're going to see. I shouldn't even say lower end, they're just kind of old school. This is just a little bit more modern, which I like. So as you can see, we have the double locking feature there with the pushers, and then the locking little drop clasp there over the top. So let's go ahead and get this on the wrist. All right, so this is how it looks on my 7¼ inch wrist. Really nice, wears really great. I think that case profile is, I mean, it's just fantastic. Extremely versatile. I mean, I have to say this is definitely one of my more versatile watches. It just suits so many different functions, and you know, it's really comfortable, you know, kind of like I reported before. It's a great watch, and it's a watch that steals, you know, a couple of buyers away from the, you know, the famous Seiko SKX line. So I mean, that in itself shows you that the watch already had a lot going for it, but now you add in sapphire, hacking hand windable movement, solid end links, drilled lugs, you know, it's just really got it all. So I mean, couldn't be more impressed. I really think that Orient, particularly Orient USA, did a fantastic job kind of putting this watch together and really offering kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to everything for this watch. It's just really well balanced, extremely versatile, and I'm just really impressed. You know, it's really solid as is versus, you know, there's a lot of other comparative options where you're gonna want to do some mods. As far as model variants go, you know, there's the black on black version, and then you also have a black bezel with a white dial variant, which is really stylish. And it was tough not getting the blue because I've been really eyeing the white dial. But I ended up just going with the blue because it's, you know, I love blue divers. If you've seen my Instagram, I'm sure you'll understand, or just if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that I love automatic blue dive watches. So as far as comparable models now, I mean, really, this is going to compare a lot closer to a modded SKX, you know, or a modded Ray 2 now, or even a modded Turtle, because it does have the sapphire now and the solid end links, the drilled lugs. I mean, this is a watch that is extremely competitive. So I compared the Ray 2 to the Turtle kind of when it was out of box. So now that this has stepped up its game so much, let's kind of compare to a Ray 2, that mod that I have put together here. You know, comparable specs. We have sapphire crystal, but it's domed. It has an aftermarket Yaboki's coin edge bezel, as well as an SKX style insert, but of course in all blue. So, you know, this is going to be a lot cheaper as far as, you know, the base watch is going to come in, you know, 60, 70 bucks lower. And with that extra money, you can actually do a couple mods. Of course, this is the wonderful stave dive mesh with the diver's extension. I think this is really the definitive diver's mesh on the market. Fantastic quality. I did a review on it. Go ahead and check that out too. This particular model is the satin finish. So now, you know, you can kind of get all the bang per buck out of box, or you can kind of take something like Array 2 and personalize it. And you know, now with the hacking and hand windable movement, this watch is extremely competitive now as well. So, and then also has the same type of versatility chops as far as the case profile, because it's essentially the same case, you know, slightly different lug location because it's not using drilled lugs. So that's one thing to note. This bracelet and these end links, well, I mean, the bracelet would be compatible, but the end links are not compatible with these other cases because the actual holes that they use for the retainers of that spring bar are pushed out further to the corners, and they're pushed in a little bit more here to kind of be more centered. And I think it's just a little bit functionally, if when you're going to have drilled lugs, you know, you can't just have them all pushed off at the end. They definitely reposition these in a way that's going to make more sense. So, you know, just kind of another option, and a very handsome one, is to do a mod with your Ray 2. So I'll put that down, and let's take out, of course, one of my favorite, and of course one of the channel's most popular mods is the Artifice Horrorworks SKX009 Enhanced. I mean, even the design language is actually pretty similar, which is kind of funny when you look at them. Now, these are extremely comparable, except this watch was a lot more expensive because, again, the SKX doesn't come with a hacking and hand windable movement, so that's one thing that needs to be upgraded. You know, of course, you have to upgrade the sapphire to a sapphire crystal. You know, I upgraded the dial. Now it has that sunburst dial from the Stargate. You know, upgraded the hands, upgraded the bezel itself. Now it's a coin edge bezel. The action, very nice. It's very similar to a regular SKX bezel action, except I think it's just a lot more solid now with this aftermarket option here. Really great work, of course, Alex at Artifice Horrorworks. If you saw my video before, you'll know everything about this, but I did upgrade the clasp now to the Marine Master ratcheting clasp. So as you can see, very cool. I would like to eventually get that Pro Saturation Diver clasp onto this piece. I actually already have a tapering bracelet that tapers down 18 millimeters. I just kind of have to try to get availability. I've been working with Orient to try to get that. To kind of make this the perfect watch, essentially. So as you can see, you know, proportions wise, very, very similar. You know, not everybody likes the 4 o'clock crown that you're gonna find on Seikos. So the 3 o'clock crown could work a little bit better. It's a little bit more traditional, but you know, for those of you that really love this piece, you know, I mean, if you think about it, you could get this type of bezel, you know, put an SKX 009 insert in it and put it on this watch, and it would actually be a pretty close budget option to piecing together one of these. So let's go ahead and get a Lume shot here and get final thoughts going. So let's zoom in a bit and get everything kind of situated. Sorry guys, I know this is kind of a longer video. It seems like most of my videos have been a little bit longer these days, but you know, time flies when you're having fun. So what I'm gonna do is now I'm gonna just make sure we got full charge on these guys with a little black light action, and then we can go ahead and hit the lights and see the Lume. So as you can see, definitely all very comparable. I really can't say one is brighter than another or better or sharper. One thing to note is that on that bezel insert from Yaboki's, that the pip just isn't that great. So I kind of had to recharge it, and as you can see, it's already fading. So aesthetically, I really like it, but you know, I did for a while have an OEM 009 insert in there, and one of the nice things is that it still had the great Lume pip. So, but I mean, you know, it's a trade-off, and aesthetically, I think it looks still very good. And my watches only spend so much time in the dark anyway. So just to give you another look, some gratuitous Lume here. Looks great. Closing thoughts, you know, the Mako USA II is a fantastic piece. It really has, you know, stepped the game up really of, you know, what you can get in kind of an affordable, I won't say entry level because the watch isn't, you know, sub $200. It is slightly more, you know, it's a little bit above 250, but for what you're getting, it's an amazing deal. And one thing that it has, you know, kind of above its Swiss counterparts is that it is in-house. And I mean, if you want an in-house diver and a Swiss made, you're gonna probably, your starting line is gonna be at the Tudor Pelagos. So just to kind of give you an idea of the kind of gap as far as what you're getting for the money. So with that said, guys, I'll cut this short. Let me know your comments down below. If you like the video, please hit like. It does help kind of get the word out about the channel. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. All right, guys. Thanks.